Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. I'm going to take off my IFC cap for a moment. I'm going to put on my Controlled Chaos Arms cap, and I'm going to walk everybody through a 4473 form. I'm going to try and make this quick. The form, admittedly, is a little boring. It's a lot boring, but it's the law, and we need to adhere to that. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Let me offer a share screen. We'll see if we can get this going. There we are. So what you're seeing here is the ATF 4473. That's the notation of the form number, I think, and this is what we call it. This is what people refer to it as. So you start with a warning up top about filling this out erroneously or filling this out deliberately, filling it out as a lie. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. We're talking about Leavenworth here, federal prison time. So 10 years and or up to $250,000. You don't want to mess around and fill these out. With irony, I see almost none of these prosecuted. Usually what happens is there's usually not people coming in to try and buy that are know that they can't. They may think that they may not be able to, or there's some question about something they did in the past, and they may try and buy a firearm and then find out from the dealer, nope, you're prohibited. Or what is more likely is some guy is a felon. He has a new girlfriend. She doesn't understand what's going on, but he says, hey, go in and buy this firearm for me. It's easier and faster if women do it, or whatever else. He bamboozles her, says he can't have it. She just needs to go take care of it, so she does. Or you've got a gangbanger and a wife, girlfriend, or something like that back and forth, and they say, well, I can't get this. You go in and you try. That's called a straw purchase, and they claim that they crack down on those, but the fact of the matter is I've spoken with ATF agents, I've spoken with federal prosecutors, and they're almost never prosecuted. So that's a hard thing for me. It should be a hard thing for you, because, well, there is a way to preclude some of this right here on the books, in writing, and we don't do anything about it. So I think that we'd rather take rights from you and I, because there's a thought that we might be a problem in the future, although we're not. And that's really, really stupid. So let's get started here. At the beginning of this, there is the firearm manufacturer, the model and the serial number, the type of weapon it is, and the caliber. So there's a full description of the weapon. Just like if you went to the dealership with your VIN number, they'd be able to tell you who made it, when it was made, what components are on it, the whole 9 yards. So that's where we're at. Right down here, they want to clarify in question 6, how many firearms are going on this today. So you can't come back later or something like that and add or subtract. And then if this is part of a pawn redemption. I'm not exactly sure what the scoop is there. When I visited with ATF about this in the past, I think it is a concern about hot firearms or something stolen coming into pawn shops, which is a common place for people to try and move things that are stolen. So I think that that's an extra layer of protection there. And then you've got question 8 to check the box if this is a transaction that facilitates a private party transfer. What that is Joe Blow says, he makes a mention when they're sitting out there at watching the parade go by. Yeah, I've got this such and such that I've used for years, and I don't really like that shotgun. I never really did. And the guy sat beside him, says, you know what? I'm looking for something like that. I'll buy it. And then each one of them says, well, I really want to make sure that I'm not selling this to somebody I had not to. And the person buying it says, I agree. So they take this weapon into a dealer and ask that they fill out this form. So the dealer is going to take it in to their inventory on their books, and they're going to move it right back out to this person. They're going to perform a background check, either calling FBI or having something that's a prerequisite. And so this is how you move down through question 8. Then that's taking place more often. So then we go on to section B. This needs to be completed by the buyer or transferee. So Johnny B. Good lives at such and such address in Sillytown, USA. His zip code, the county, the whole 9 yards, and then this person's place of birth, so they can figure out exactly or refine who this is if there's any question. height, weight, sex, birth date, all those things. Social Security number helps, is not necessary, but a lot of people put that on there so there's no mistaken identity, because there are times that you're mistaken. I mean, you may have the same name as another guy that grew up in or around your city, state, whatever, and you might get mistaken. It happened to a customer of mine. They thought he was an escaped mental patient, and obviously he wasn't. And then he was disapproved for his purchase. Then he had to turn around and appeal it. And when he did, he was issued what they call a UPIN, a unique personal identification number, so that he could add that serial number, if you will, to future transactions, so that he wouldn't be mistaken in the future. And that's what question 17 is. Do you have a UPIN or anything like that? So moving forward, this person is filling this out. Johnny B. Good is Hispanic, and he checks the box over at 18B for white. His country of citizenship, and then we get down through the questions. Are you the actual buyer of the firearm? Well, of course, you need to be the actual buyer of the firearm. If this is a straw purchase where somebody's buying it for somebody who's prohibited, there's a big problem with that. It's illegal and you can't do it, among other things. So then in question B, are you a felon? Question C, have you been convicted of a felony, military court, the whole 9 yards? Are you a fugitive from justice? Are you the unlawful user of drugs? Moving forward to F, have you ever been adjudicated mentally defective or committed? Have you ever been discharged dishonorably from the armed forces? Subject to court orders, and you can read down through which ones those are. Convicted in any court of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence. Have you renounced your U.S. citizenship? Are you illegally and unlawfully in the United States? Are you an alien who's been admitted to the United States under a non-immigrant visa? You've got to, and then subsequent questions for that. You've got to go through these. You've got to answer those truthfully. Now, again, I wish that when there aren't very many of these that people come in and lie on. It's not an epidemic. It's not a high number from what I understand, but that does happen from time to time. And I also understand these things aren't acted on. That's a tough pill for me to swallow. Because if you think about it, if you and I are asked to fill this out because it means something, because it has validity, because it's a prerequisite for owning or buying a firearm, then why is it when people deliberately lie on this to evade the law, then why aren't they prosecuted? I think that's a question that should be asked and answered more often. Moving forward, there's a section here where you're going to sign and date this so that you can say, yes, I did this, and this is who I am again, and I recognize that I answered these things truthfully. So then we move forward to the transfer or the dealer in this case, and there's a further description of what the transaction is. It's a long gun. Was it done at a qualifying gun show or event? So meaning that the gun shows, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to have a gun show today. Y'all come out to the fairgrounds, or here's where we're going to meet in this abandoned parking lot. You're not able to do that. I don't think the public understands that. The gun show promoters and people that put those organized events on have to ask permission from ATF and let them know, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how long we're going to do it. And these are the parameters for the show, and the ATF signs off on that. So you don't just have, a rave gun show that just pops up and we all just go do it. Okay. So that's what that section's for. Now, this person has a driver's license rather than a passport or something like that. So it's from the great state of Iowa. It's a driver's license, and there's information there. And it says number on identification in 26. And so I just put down driver's license. But the fact of the matter is you would obviously give that license number. The rest of the questions here are for situations where they wouldn't use a permit to carry, permit to acquire, whatever it is in your state. And you'd walk down through those and then call in to FBI on the spot for the NICS check, the National Instrument, the NICS check. And that happens. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I don't really have that permit, or I don't want to go get one. If I buy a firearm, then they can just call in the NICS questions and call in the information to FBI, and they can check me on the spot. And so there's a series down here where you put that information down. Did they generate a transaction number and say yes, or did it need a little bit of review? Did they say, well, they're not going to tell you this, mind you, but let's say that this guy's got the same name as another fella, and they're from the same rough time period and origin or birth origin as this gentleman before you. And there's a court record they need to go look at. Well, it happens to be Saturday. The court's closed in wherever it is. They can't get to it. So they're going, well, you're going to have to give us some time, 72 hours, 3 working days, and we'll get back to you. And so there are situations where that happens, and you need to record that information. Then you'd move forward to question 29. In this case, this person came in with a permit to carry from this great state of Iowa, and there's a date of issuance, a date of expiration, and again, a permit number, and then a place here to sign and date. The dealer themselves lists all their information, their federal firearms license number, the person filling out the information, another date and signature. Now, keep in mind here that there are a series of prerequisites that have been met. There was a driver's license or a passport or something along those lines that was offered, and you can't just go get those. You can't just Joe Blow just roll up and say, yeah, I decide that I'm going to be this guy, this name today, and I'm going to go get a driver's license. You and I both know that doesn't happen. You can't do that. You have to prove that you're who you are to get that license and everything that's associated with being who you are. So that is part of what you'll see. Now, that's part of what the driver's license or your passport is. So that's a bona fide that you're who you are. Same thing with the permit. You have to have, in order to get a permit, they perform the background check at the time that you apply. It's immediate. So that's another background check or another layer right there, along with you proving that you're who you are, just to get that permit. So you've got 2 levels here of checks that are bona fides as to proving who you are and weeding you out if there's anything that's associated with you that's a problem. Then the same thing with the dealer. I assure you, you do not get a federal firearms license and are generated this license and number unless you have been thoroughly checked. I've done it. Obviously, it's not a heck of a lot of fun, and it's pretty exhausting. They don't mess around. So this is a very lawful process. It's not fraught with peril. People adhere to the rules, 99.99% of us. And then for those of us who do try and slip through or send somebody in unknowingly or knowingly to lie on this form, oddly, they're not prosecuted. I guess I don't understand that. So in response to there being problems with culture that are of the mind and of the heart, we say, well, let's make these things more hard for the good guys to get. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way to go. So the people who are opting into all this stuff that you saw on the screen are being told, yes, we're going to take more things from you. Yes, we're going to remove these options and these choices from you. We're going to take this away because we believe that a bad guy will stop being a bad guy then. Okay, we can flesh that one out in another video, but I've walked you through the 4473 as it exists in June 2022. Revisions of these things don't get less onerous, they get more onerous. And there have been several revisions over the years, and this is where we're at today. So these are the kinds of things that you're going to have to do to get a firearm. This is the kind of thing that you're going to do if you choose a private party transfer, and this is the way that it works. I mean, the good guys are, again, opting into more and more and more layers of scrutiny, all while the soft-headed people that haven't thought through it say, oh, we need to take from these guys because that'll make the bad guy less bad. That's where we're at, folks. I hope that this was helpful. iowafc.org, become a member, volunteer, donate. And if you're interested about what elected officials are doing for you or not, then go to ifcpac.org. We've got a list of legislators there, and it shows how they have voted, not what they've told you on the campaign trail, not what they've told you over coffee, not what they've told you in commercials. It shows what they have and haven't voted for, what they have and haven't done. Go look at that. Make sure you're really acquainted with what's going on there. We provide that service for free, and it's a summary of how they've behaved when it comes to your civil liberty, when it comes to your pre-existing right that nobody should monkey with. this will show you who's monkey and who's not. IFCPAC. Again, iowafc.org, Iowa Firearms Coalition. Thank you.